Good afternoon and welcome back to the NWR Investor Conference Series 11. I'm your host, Benjo Blake, and in the current session we have Prophecy International. Prophecy International is a leading Australian designer and developer of innovative business software. Through its two products, Snare and eMite, Prophecy serves the large and growing global markets of contact center analytics and cybersecurity. The company operates mainly in defence, government, transport and energy sectors. This afternoon presenting will be Brad Thomas, the CEO of Prophecy International. Without further ado, I'd love to hand over to Brad when you're ready.
Thanks very much. And hi, folks. Thanks for joining and attending and your interest in Prophecy. I think the format is I'll kick off with about a 15-minute presentation. I can see quite a few names that I know on the list, so welcome. And then we'll have some questions and answers at the end. Many of you, I think, are familiar with the company, so I won't spend a huge amount of time going into the company background, but if there are questions at the end, quite happy to take them. So Prophecy International, as we said before, is a pure play software company. We're a B2B and B2G software company that we're selling to medium-sized to large business and governments globally. We've just ticked over 100 staff and are growing pretty rapidly. We're hiring really right across the world at the moment, but primarily all of our R&D is done in Australia, out of Adelaide for our Snare product and out of Sydney for eMite, although we do have some development capability in our offshore centre in Manila, which also provides global support. Our largest sales organisation is based out of Denver in Colorado in the US, and we have a growing team in EMEA selling it right across Europe and the Middle East for both Snare and eMite as well. Prophecy's been around for a long time, and we'll talk about the timeline in a moment. I think one of the things on this slide that is important is that the vast majority of our revenue is actually generated from international markets, and typically better than 80% of our revenue globally comes from offshore, and a very large percentage of that is coming out of North America. As a result, the exchange rate at the moment is going in the right direction for us, which is terrific. A little bit more about the company. Always interesting to put these numbers up because they change on a daily basis, but we've been sitting around about the $8 per share, which gives us a market cap in the $79 to $80 million mark. Our register is about 35% institutionals, with a few large holders have about another 10 to 15%. The top 20 insiders, current and ex-directors and executives, hold about another 20%, and the remainder is retail. And the share price has actually held up very well over the last little while, where there's been a very significant re-rating of many of our fellow travellers on the ASX, particularly in the technology space. So when we're now looking, and we think we've built a very strong platform for sustainable, profitable growth that generates free cash flow. So I'll touch very briefly on financial performance. I think I won't talk too much about last year at the half. All of that information is available. But from a sales perspective, things are going quite well. We look at new business, very, very critically, and we measure that very, very robustly in the business. On the eMite side, 52% up year on year in new business growth, just under 5 million at the end of March, and we have a very strong pipeline of opportunity going into the end of the financial year, the last quarter, and into next year. And Snare is also doing incredibly well. 5 million in new business. That's a combination of both perpetual and subscription, and that's also up very substantially on last year, 37%. We'll get to some more details on ARR growth, which is terrific as well this year, now up to 16.8 million. Many of you will know that we raised capital last October, and we put 7.2 after costs into the bank, and the cash generation of the business over this financial year has been very strong, and I'll talk about that more in the next few slides. So this is the half year highlights. I think you will have all seen these before. We haven't put out any details at the quarter. We did put out a number of sales figures, but I think the thing I will draw your attention to is that at the end of the half, the cash balance was 10.6, and as at the end of March, it's now well up over 13 million. So we're generating very good positive cash flow from operations. From a growth perspective, one of the things that we are most focused on is growing our recurring revenue, our ARR number. And I think there's a few very important numbers to look at here. Obviously, the grey block here for the eMite annual recurring revenue has continued to grow very strongly this year. And we expect that to continue to grow through to the end of this financial year. I would like to see us finish somewhere north of $13 million of ARR for eMite this year. But I'm also incredibly pleased with this other number in the orange, the $1 million number. This is the new Snare subscription revenue that we've generated really since, mostly since 1st of January, when we switched to a default approach using subscription revenue rather than a perpetual license model. And that's built very nicely since, probably last October, we did our first substantial subscription deal with Verizon, and now that's in excess of $1 million. So that's been fantastic so far this year. I will also talk a little bit about the pipeline for Snare that we've generated in Q3 when we started with subscription. As a default, from January to March, we generated a net $3.5 million of new unweighted pipe, and of that, 90% was subscription based. So we're seeing very substantial uptake from our customers and acceptance of the new subscription pricing, and that gives me a great deal of confidence that we'll be able to continue to build increased ARR over the next few years for Snare. I think many of you are aware of this. The two main products that we take to market are Snare and eMite. Snare was acquired back in 2011 when Prophecy acquired Intersect Alliance, and eMite was acquired in 2015. And when I started with the business nearly 6 years ago, we had a few other smaller subsidiaries as well, but we've sold those off, and we've been concentrating on Snare and eMite. And I will talk more about the markets that we operate in a few slides' time. But as you can see, the brand names that we have as our customers, one of the things that we are incredibly proud of, some of the biggest companies in the world choose Prophecy for either their cybersecurity or their customer experience analytics. And we continue to attract some of the largest companies in the world, Fortune 50, Fortune 500, large government agencies on a global basis. So the two primary markets that we operate in, eMite operates in the contact center and customer experience market. And that market is undergoing very significant transformation at the moment as customers are migrating from legacy on-premise systems to cloud-based contact center and customer experience systems. And eMite is absolutely taking advantage of that wave. And what we do for eMite is we help customers analyze the effectiveness. Our customers analyze the effectiveness of their customer experience, customer service, and sales organizations. On the Snare side, there are really two kinds of cybersecurity products. There are perimeter security, which helps keep the bad guys out, and there are monitoring solutions which help you detect once the bad guys get in, and Snare is one of the latter. So it's a solution that plays inside the broader cybersecurity market, but specifically, the market that we play in is security analytics and log management, and both of those markets are multi-billion dollars and growing at around 18% compound annual growth rate. And the cloud contact center analytics market is a $3 billion market and growing at about 16% year on year. So there's a very significant headroom in both of those markets for our products, and we do have a reasonable footprint in those markets that we're very focused on growing. So eMite, as I said, is a product that allows customers to visualize the data from their customer experience and contact centers. One of the challenges for companies delivering customer experience is it's not simply one application that you use to deliver customer experience. So a typical large company will have an IVR system, a chat system, they'll have chatbots. Then they'll have their contact center system, and then they'll have a survey system. They'll be using Salesforce. They'll have a ticketing system like ServiceNow. They'll have workforce management. They'll have speech analytics. They'll have a transcription service. They'll have sentiment analysis. And data from all of these systems needs to be brought together, normalized, correlated, and made available for visualization, inspection, and analysis. And that's really what eMite does. You may start to see some commentary in the market talking about data meshing or a data mesh, and that's really what eMite is, but very focused on this customer experience market segment. And I'm sure we'll get some more questions about that as we go. This is a full SaaS solution. It's both out of the box and fully extendable. It's all drag and drop, no coding required. We can have a customer up and running literally in a matter of hours, and then customize ad infinitum on top of that. And we provide both historical data that trends over time, as well as sub-second real-time analysis of changes that are happening. And it's the combination of those things is one of the reasons why we win with eMite. Probably also, really important to call out our Humana deal last year, which I think is a great example of what we've done with this product. Last October, we signed our largest customer to date, which was 25,000 seat contact center for Humana, number 41 on the Fortune 500. And that's a 3-year deal for eMite with an annual subscription in the vicinity of 1.9 million Australian dollars per annum. So what are we focusing on with eMite? Obviously, continuing to focus on customer acquisition. We are really focused very much on growing organically and cementing our leadership position in this market space with our big partners like Genesys and Amazon. There is an ability for us to extend into other vendor partnerships, people like Twilio or Cisco or TalkDesk. We have some telco partnerships around the world. We do business with Telstra, AT&T and Vodafone globally at the moment, and there are other telcos that we are focused on for partnerships as we speak. And we are really taking advantage of this cloud migration wave that is running through the industry and is expected to continue for many years as customers move from legacy platforms. We also have the ability to upsell our customers, both as they grow the number of contact center agents and applications that they're using to deliver customer experience. But we also have a very strong product innovation pipeline, which will enable us to further monetize those existing customer relationships. Moving on to Snare. Snare is effectively a security monitoring and security analytics tool. At our heart, we're a data company. We are collecting data from various different domains within our customers' organization, either security data from all of their IT infrastructure or customer experience data in the case of eMite. And very similarly, we collect this data, we secure it, we normalize it, we make it available for analysis and reporting and alerting. And really, Snare is for customers to be able to deliver security compliance. It's a foundational security control. It's for forensics, threat hunting, alerting, reporting, and searching for potential threats in your network. Snare has been in the market for a very long time and has a very strong market position and strong brand awareness in the log management space. We have some very substantial partnerships with companies like Verizon, NTT, Atos, Fujitsu, IBM. In fact, just this week, we were at a defense conference on the stand with IBM in Baltimore in the US, talking to a number of customers in both the federal government, defense and military space in the US. And we have about 3,000 customers using Snare globally. And again, it's some of the largest companies in the world. So for Snare going forward, we are continuing to focus on the defense and military space. We have defense agencies across the US, the UK and Australia and Canada using Snare. Effectively, every single branch of the US military uses Snare in some way, shape or form. most of the big defence contractors have or do use Snare. And that's still a very significant market opportunity for us and substantial room for us to grow. We also have a number of managed security service providers that we work with, like NTT and Verizon. There's opportunity to extend the relationships we have with those partners, as well as to establish new partnerships in that MSSP and system integrator space. We have a substantial upsell opportunity inside our existing Snare customer base. Only a relatively small proportion of our customers have Snare Central, which is our core reporting, alerting, and forensics product at the moment. And there's a very substantial opportunity to upsell Snare Central into our existing customers. And if I was just to sell one copy of Snare Central to each customer that doesn't have it, that would be a $60 million opportunity by itself. And last but not least, we are also very rapidly migrating to a subscription revenue model with Snare. Now, I will point out that it's not a full SaaS solution. It's not hosted, and we don't provide it as a service. One of the reasons why it's not is because many of our defence and military customers need to run Snare in a completely air-gapped environment that is not connected to other networks or the internet. And having it as a SaaS solution dilutes that value proposition. We have many customers running Snare in top secret and protected environments, and a SaaS solution just simply cannot run in that mode. Again, great partnerships, great customers. If you look at the kind of companies that are using Snare, US Treasury, QBE globally, UK Ministry of Defence, companies like Raytheon, MetLife, Schwab, Yum Brands. In fact, Yum Brands is one of our larger retail customers and runs Snare in the cloud. We have a number of customers now running Snare in the cloud, as well as being able to run it on-prem. And we've got fantastic new business momentum with Snare this year, up 37% year on year. So from an operational perspective, the organisation is growing in pretty much every direction at the moment. Where we raised capital last year to enable us to increase our expenditure on particularly new revenue generating resources in sales and marketing. And we are executing against that plan as we speak. Pleasingly though, the cash generation at this point is outstripping our ability to spend it. So we're actually generating additional cash at the moment. I can see we're coming back on time, so I think I'm just about ready to wrap up here. Really, in summary, I think Prophecy is a fantastic business for you to look at. We have diverse revenue streams. We have very little concentration risk. None of our customers are so substantial that the loss of one or two of our large customers would have any material impact on the revenue. We have very large markets that we're targeting. We have established and mature products that continue to mature and expand capability and capacity. We've got some of the best companies in the world as our customers, and we have a very substantial organic growth opportunity in front of us in all of the markets that we address. I think I'll move on because you've got most of that, and I think if we wrap there and go to questions.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for that presentation, Brad. It was great to get a bit of an insight into Snare and eMite. A question from Stella Wang. At the half-year result, the company was expecting a few large bid results from the US federal government and the Department of Defense in the June quarter. Could you please give us any update on that?
The only update I can give is that the budget for the bids that we are involved in has been approved by Congress. I'm not aware if it's been signed into law by the executive at this point. And as a result, some of those bids have not been awarded yet. So, we were actually hoping for these to be awarded back at the end of the first half, and Congress has been very distracted, and sadly, that they're outside my sphere of influence. So we just wait for the wheels of government to continue to turn.
No worries.
None of those opportunities have gone away. We're just waiting for all the things to fall into place.
Thanks for that update. Could you please give some color on the progress of converting the existing Snare customer base to Snare Central?
Yeah, we are It's a massive focus for us. In March, we had an equal record month in Snare Central sales. Try saying that 6 times quickly. We sold 20 copies of Snare Central in March. That equaled the record that we had in December. We are very focused on selling the whole stack to customers now. Snare is a suite of products. It's not a single product. Although historically, the business was focused very much on the agents which sit on the endpoint. We're now very much focused on selling the whole product suite. That continues to be a priority for us, and we are having some success, and that I expect that to continue to accelerate. It does make our customers stickier if they do take Snare Central rather than just having agents.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for your time today, Brad. That concludes our session, and thank you very much for the insight into eMite and Snare today.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.